Okay guys, back bringing you another one. This is going to be the start of my video series, doing my Tyranid Codex walkthrough, tactical analysis, unit analysis, all that kind of crazy stuff going on. So I'm just going to start straight from the top. I'm going to start the HQ section, as you might have thought by the title of this video. So I'm going to leave out the Hive Tyrant. I've done a separate video on the Hive Tyrant. So I'm going to leave him out. If you want to see my thoughts about the Hive Tyrant, then go check out that video. So we'll skip out the Hive Tyrant, and that means we start with the Swarm Lord. Now the Swarm Lord follows very much the same pattern as the Hive Tyrant. The same sort of basic abilities of being a powerhouse, being a presence. Offers you that psychic output of 3 powers a turn. So remember, the Swarm Lord is a Mastery level 3 Psyker who does know 4 psychic powers because he can swap in all 4 of his Tyranid powers if he so chooses and cast 3 a turn, or the whole 2 and 1, whatever. So the Swarm Lord in essence becomes the central hub of a Tyranid army. The Swarm Lord is just shy of 300 points. He has some pretty crazy special rules. He obviously has the Synapse Screech special rule. He gives you the same benefit that Hive Commander does, the +1 to your reserve rolls. Lets you reroll outflank rolls. He has his 4 up in running combat. He has the same sort of shadowing the warp abilities. And he also has his Bone Sabers, which inflicts instant death on any wound that he causes. And he's strength 6. He's going to cause a lot of wounds in combat when you get him there. The problem is with the Swarm Lord is he is very expensive. He is very slow, and he has no invulnerable save outside of combat. So when your opponent sees the Swarm Lord on the table, like I know myself, I've played against Tyranid using my other armies. And I've just looked at the Swarm Lord and gone, missile launcher, dead. And he's still wounded on 2s by most heavy weapons. He still only has the 3+ armor save. Remember, he can't take any of the biomorphs. He can't take the armored shell. He can't take wings. He comes as he is. So for the best part, 300 points. I find him being very much a liability. In 5th edition, he was very usable with the Gene Stealer spam lists because you got them on more reliably, and you got them on where you wanted more reliably. But now Gene Stealers can't assault from outflank. It killed that build. That build is now pointless. The only way you can even remotely successfully run the Swarm Lord, in my opinion, of course, this is all my own opinion, is to stick him with 3 Tyrant Guard. If you want to take, for example, 3 Tyrant Guard and Swarm Lord, this is how you should run the Swarm Lord, in my opinion. It's the only way it kind of works, and it does rely on a little bit of luck. So you take the Swarm Lord with all his craziness, all his psychic powers, his, a million attacks. Well, doesn't get a million attacks in combat, but, he's a pain in the ass to deal with. You take the Swarm Lord, you take 3 Tyrant Guard. Each Tyrant Guard takes a Lash Whip. That's pretty much all they need. They swap the Scything Talons for the Lash Whips. They lose that ability to reroll 1s, but it's not essential for this to work. Basically, they're there to make up an initiative 1, obviously. Swarm Lord's pretty fast anyway, but it also means that Tyrant Guard get to go before anyone else. So you take 3 Tyrant Guard with Lash Whips and with the Swarm Lord. Now the problem is with this build is it's very, very expensive. You're looking at the best part of 500 points for this one sort of Death Star unit, and it's still not really that good. But then the kicker comes if you take, I think it's Telekinesis or Telepathy, whichever one gives you the psychic power Invisibility, because that gives you Stealth and Shrouded, giving this whole unit a 4-up cover save, which massively counteracts that problem of having no vulnerable save, because then you've got 6 toughness 6 wounds to get through with a 4-up cover save and a 3+ armor save before you even get to the Swarm Lord. And you think you move out 6, run, move out 6. You should be seeing combat turn 2 if you're lucky, but at least turn 3, and you should be able to survive that. Because don't forget, you'll have your other stuff on the table as well at the same time. So really, that's the only viable build to take the Swarm Lord in my opinion. He's very hard to use now. He's very expensive for what you pay for. I think you can build better Hive Tyrants for cheaper using the standard Hive Tyrant as a base. So my honest opinion would be just to avoid the Swarm Lord, unless you want a fluffy element to your Tyranid army with that really powerful core at the centre. Because you can get him into combat, you get him in the right place, he will absolutely murder pretty much anything in combat. There's not a single unit really that can stand up to him one-on-one in combat. Again, the Tyrant Guard make him more survivable, but very expensive. So that's the Swarm Lord in a nutshell. And there's not really much to say about the Swarm Lord because he has very little options. He's basically just charge whatever you can and kill it kind of creature. Which, surprisingly, there's not actually that many of them in the Tyranid book, which you'd expect from a fully close combat army. Anyway, moving on to the Tervigon. Tervigon comes next. The Tervigon is obviously the apex of the Tyranid build at the moment. We're seeing Tervigon spam completely and utterly being the sought after build for Tyranids. Quick run through what he has. Obviously, he's a Synapse creature. He obviously has Shadow in the Warp. He is a Psyker level 1, but he can have up to 3 powers if you want to spend the points on him, which we'll come to in a second. He has special rule Brood Progenitor and Spawn Termagants. So obviously we'll take his main purpose straight off, and that's spawning Termagants. Tervigon gets 3d6 gaunts at the start of every turn until he rolls a double and then he runs out. Now this is brilliant. This makes him awesome in objective missions because you can just keep spawning out those little fearless scoring units that your opponent has to kill. You kill one unit of 10 gaunts, which in cover and the fearless isn't as easy to do as you might think. Then you just replace it with another unit. It's fine. It works so well. The process of just carpeting objectives. It's won me so many games. Highly recommend Tervigon for this reason. There is another reason to use a Tervigon though. Again, using the Spawn Termagants and the Brood Progenitor special rule. Now, the Brood Progenitor special rule states that every unit of gaunts within 6 inches has the counterattack special rule, which is nothing to be scoffed at. But all these gaunts units get to benefit from any biomorphs, adrenal glands and toxin sacs, that the Tervigon has taken. So, you can have 20 points spent on your Tervigon, on toxin sacs and adrenal glands, and that can also affect any number of gaunts, because you only need one model in the unit to be within 6 inches, and the whole unit gets the benefit from it. Now, the kicker with this special rule is it has to be within 6 inches at the point of use. I've seen lots and lots and lots of people make the mistake and think, oh, well, I started the turn within 6 inches, that means they have it for this turn. That's not the case. The worst person for this, if you go and check out Mini Wargaming, when Owen plays with the Tyranids, he does this repeatedly for about 3 games. He gets this wrong. It is at the point of use when the biomorphs can be used. So we'll look at some of the options the Tervigon can take. You can have Scything Talons for 5 points, Crushing Claws for 25 points. If you have the point spare, highly recommend Crushing Claws. D3 extra attacks. Now, 25 points may seem expensive for that, but when you combine that with his base attacks and some of the psychic powers he may end up getting. I've had this guy run into combat with 11 attacks on the charge before. It's just horrible. He can chew through units. He really, really can. Adrenal glands. It's not necessarily useful on the Tervigon itself, but if you can get adrenal glands onto all the gaunts around him, brilliant, because then you have strength 4 gaunts on the charge. Combine that with toxin sacs, which lets you have poisoned. Your gaunts can really be a force in combat. And people don't expect that. I've had 6 gaunts charge into a Wolf Lord and kill him. It's just the fact you hit and you can cause so many wounds with your rerolls at toughness 4. It's just, people underestimate a gaunt charge, and it's something really useful to have in your repertoire as a Tyranid player, because you really need these trump cards you can pull out at crazy times. Other options that you can take is Acid Blood, Implant Attack, Toxic Miasma, Regeneration. None of those are really worth it. I think they're all too expensive for the benefit that you get. Regeneration is good, but again, for the price you pay, the price of 2 Space Marines, the 1 in 6 chance of getting a wound back just isn't worth it. I avoid regeneration and recommend you do the same. Excuse me, guys. Bit of a cold at the moment. You can replace this Stinger Salvo, which is a 4-shot Strength 5 weapon, with Cluster Spines for free. Now, Cluster Spines is a large blast Strength 5 weapon, AP dash. I highly recommend swapping out for Cluster Spines because his low ballistic skill means he is going to be hitting more often with the Cluster Spines. And it's a Strength 5 large blast weapon. You just make people take armor saves, and that's what it's all about. You can make your opponent roll dice, bad things can happen, and models die. That's what happens. So highly recommended taking the Tervigon with the Cluster Spines because it's a free swap. It's no points. And it's by far the superior weapon in my opinion. Okay, and then additional psychic powers he can take. He comes with 1 psychic power which increases his synapse range by 6 inches, which is a very useful power to have in certain situations. He can also take additional psychic powers for the price of a Space Marine apiece, and that's Catalyst and Onslaught. Catalyst gives a unit within 12 inches feel no pain, and Onslaught lets a unit shoot and run in the same shooting phase. I would stay away from Onslaught unless you are wanting to swap all 3 powers, because Onslaught counts as a psychic shooting attack, so if you cast Onslaught on a friendly unit, you then can't shoot or charge any enemy units. So be very careful with the uses of Onslaught. Highly recommend taking Catalyst, both if you want to swap it for another power, or keep Catalyst yourself, because, Feel No Pain is great. You get, big unit Hormagaunts, for example, with Feel No Pain. That's a really tough unit. Gives them that save they desperately need. And looking at the psychic powers they can swap to then, Biomancy is the favoured one for myself personally. You looking to roll something like Iron Arm or Warp Speed. Endurance again is good because Endurance is kind of an upgraded version of Catalyst. The one you really want to get is Iron Arm. I've had this guy, scoring unit in the relic, toughness 9, holding the relic, won me the game because just my opponent just couldn't score a wound on him. Toughness 9. So Biomancy highly recommended. However, keeping Catalyst and Dominion does have its uses in many situations. So that's the Tervigon in a nutshell. My preferred build is I'll give you guys an example of at the end of each section I'll give you a preferred build that I use and I've had most success with. Is Tervigon, Crushing Claws, Adrenal Glands, Toxin Sacs, Cluster Spines, Catalyst. 220 points. You then have the unit that spits out gaunts, gives them Toxin Sacs and Adrenal Glands, has the large blaster turn, and can take 2 psychic powers, casting 1 a turn. That's my preferred build for the Tervigon. That is why I would recommend to any Tyranid players thinking about taking the Tervigon. And I also mention quickly at the end of the Tervigon is that unless you are going for the full massive swarm of Gorn army, I would recommend not taking more than 2. And 2 is a very maximum. If you're going for like a balanced sort of bit of everything Tyranid list like I like to take, because I think Tyranids are the army that do that best. They can throw so many different threats at an opponent at any given time. I run 1 in my list, my army that won best Tyranid player at the November Throne of Skulls. I only had 1 Tervigon. I think 1's enough. 2 at a max. Any more than that is overkill, I think, and a kind of waste of a points, unless you're going for the 5 Tervigon build with, your intention is just to swamp your opponent with gaunts. That would be my suggestion for the Tervigon. Okay, so moving on to the Tyranid Prime. Now, Tyranid Prime is the kind of it's the character I looked at initially and thought Tyranid Prime is garbage. It's got a better than average stat line, but first look it doesn't ignore armor saves. It should be a monstrous creature in my opinion, or at least its attack should ignore armor saves. But it's not essential, as we'll get to in a second. So the Tyranid Prime comes with a bonded exoskeleton, which is a 3+ armor save, a Devourer, 3-shot weapon, and has Scything Talons, which is, of course, lets you reroll ones. Special rules is it's obviously a synapse creature. It's an independent character, has Shadow in the Warp, and it's also an Alpha Warrior. Now, Alpha Warrior means that if you put it in a unit of warriors, then all the warriors in that squad get to use the Prime's weapon skill and ballistic skill, which is fantastic because he has a Space Marine's ballistic skill and a Space Marine captain weapon skill, so he can make a warrior unit pretty damn powerful. Where the Prime becomes really good though is its choice of options. You can take Rending Claws, Bone Swords, or a Lash Whip and Bone Sword. Now, this guy has the same amount of attacks as a Hive Tyrant, bearing in mind. Again, you want to know some of these stat lines, look at some of my previous videos. You take a pair of Bone Swords, and then he is inflicted instant death on a leadership test with 3d6, ignoring armor saves, because that's the new special rule with Tyranid Bone Swords, is they don't have an AP value, they just straight up ignore armor saves, which a lot of people tend to miss out. Oh, well, it's a power up in AP3. It's like, no, it's not. It ignores armor saves, so your Terminators are going to fall over. So, giving this guy a pair of Bone Swords is fantastic, and it means he now ignores armor saves like he should do anyway, but he also is, doing his instant death on a third leadership test on 3 dice. Lash Whip and Bone Sword is good, but this guy's like the killing element of the way you should run him, which I'm going to obviously get to at the end of this section. So the Lash Whip isn't necessary on him. The Rending Claws are good, but for double the price of Rending Claws, you take the you take the Bone Swords. And the Bone Swords are just so much better than Rending Claws because you ignore armor saves just full stop, not just on the roll of a 6. You can also replace his Devourer with Rending Claws, Spine Fists, Death Spitter, or you can get your Scythe and Talons back. You have to swap your Scythe and Talons for Bone Swords, then you can take your Scythe and Talons back by dropping the Devourer, which is the recommended setup. You swap the Scythe and Talons for your Bone Swords, and you swap the Devourer for Scythe and Talons. So now you're rerolling ones, ignoring armor saves. Brilliant setup. And again, you can take the following biomorphs: Adrenal Gland, Toxin Sacs, and Regeneration. Now on this, I used to run in with Adrenal Glands for the +1 initiative, but now that's gone. It's kind of not as important anymore. What is important is Toxin Sacs, because he is wounding a Space Marine on a 3, re-rolling. So, he's charging in with 5 attacks, hitting on 3s, re-rolling 1s, killing on 3s, re-rolling to wound, and he's, causes instant death on a 3+. On a leadership test on 3 dice, sorry. Which is brilliant. And it's so cheap. It is fantastically cheap for that character. He is, he's 100 points for that build, and he's great in challenges. He's great at just cutting down models. He's great at taking out characters. He's great at taking out vehicles. Anything armor 10, he will just punch in the face. He's just a brilliant character for fairly cheap. The Tyranid Prime works best if you're going for a really assaulty force. If you're taking, big units of Hormagaunts, or you're taking lots of warriors, the Tyranid Primes are a great way to save points, yet still have a really killy character in there. Suffers from being on foot, fairly slow, but most, killy characters are on foot and fairly slow. So we'll look at my preferred build for the Tyranid Prime. Now, Tyranid Prime, as I've said, you take you swap the Scythe and Talons for Bone Swords, then you swap the Devourer for Scythe and Talons, then you take Toxin Sacs, and you stick him in a unit of warriors. Now, anywhere between 3 and 5 warriors is good for this. 3 if you want to save points, 5 if you want a really troublesome unit that your opponent has to deal with. Give all the warriors Lash Whip and Bone Swords, because then the warriors are also ignoring armor saves. They are also inflicting instant death and failed leadership on 2d6, and they're also making anyone in base contact leadership initiative 1, meaning this unit will just butcher anything that it gets in contact with. Again, it suffers from the fact that it's a slow unit and it's on foot, but we can deal with this because it will happily go toe-to-toe with Terminators, or veteran squads, or and most other units it can go toe-to-toe with and just absolutely annihilate it in combat. It's fairly expensive, takes a bit of finesse to use, but if you want to go down that route of taking warriors, then this is definitely the way to do it. Tyranid Prime, Bone Swords, Toxin Sacks in a unit of, I'd recommend 5 warriors with Lash Whip and Bone Swords. And again, try and get Toxin Sacks on the warriors if you have the points. That is a fantastic unit to take if you want to take warriors. So moving on from the Prime to the Parasite of Mortrex. And the Parasite is the one unit I really don't like. I said I wasn't a big fan of the Swarm Lord, but the Swarm Lord at least has some uses. He's quite good. You can build an army around the Swarm Lord. Now, Parasite of Mortrex just doesn't offer anything in terms of, anything. The Parasite of Mortrex is, his jump infantry, which again is a hindrance. If he was a flying monstrous creature, would be brilliant, but he's only jump infantry. He comes with a 3+ armor save, rending claws. He does have the implant attack, so any roll to wound of a 6 is going to cause instant death. He's a synapse creature. He's an independent character. A shadow in the warp. The thing that changes the Parasite is his special rules, and his special rule is the Sarge is acting strangely, which means that any outflanking unit has to take a toughness test, I believe, and if they fail, then you remove the leader of that unit, and yeah, it's a toughness test. If the model is instantly removed as a casualty, and the Tyranid player may place a Ripper Swarm unit consisting of D6 bases anywhere within 6 inches of the victim. Now, this may seem like a fairly good ability. You think you're playing against someone like Eldar, you can pop the head of their Exarch and turn him into D6 Rippers. But the problem is this is only when a unit outflanks, which now with the abilities to not assault from the outflank is increasingly rare. It just doesn't happen anymore. People very rarely outflank. You've got such fast reserves coming on from your table edge in the form of flyers. You've got many more people now taking drop pods. They can just come in from deep strike. So there's very little armies out there that will make use of the outflank special rule. So the fact that this is only one on a failed toughness test and on an outflanking unit, there's too much limitations there for the special rule to be worthwhile. Add that to the fact that Ripper Swarms are absolute garbage. There's no benefit from taking the Parasite. Ripper Swarms benefit from being outside of Synapse range by getting Rage and having tons and tons of attacks like Necron Scarabs. Yet, if they're outside of Synapse and they fail their leadership, which is countable on one hand, they take wounds equal to the amount they fail it by. So you're just going to kill your own Ripper bases. You think the average on 2d6 is what, 7? We'll call it 8. Average leadership is 8. You're going to roll an 8. You're going to lose a base a turn. What's the point in taking Rippers? Rippers are the most contradictory unit in the entire game at the moment. They have this one purpose that they're supposed to fulfill, and they just don't. They're their own hindrance. So what the Parasite lets you have tons and tons of Ripper bases if you want. But who wants Ripper bases? Ripper bases are crap. Again, we look at some of the Parasite's special rules. When he wounds a character, he can also turn when he wounds a model, he can turn that model into Ripper bases. But then we're back at the same problem of no one wants to use Ripper bases. So the Parasite, again, unless you're going for a fluffy build based around the Parasite and the Parasite's fluff, because he does have some pretty cool fluff, he's just not worth taking. He offers no tactical benefit whatsoever. Yeah, so the Parasite definitely is the one you can scratch off first when considering what HQ units to take. So we've covered the HQ units there. There's not many in the Tyranid army. It's the smallest section of the book really. So we've looked at the Hive Tyrant in a separate video. We've looked at the Swarm Lord, the Tervigon, the Tyranid Prime, and of course the Parasite. And I'll give you my thoughts and feelings on those units and how you should take them if you're planning to take them. Again, this is all my opinion. I like to consider myself a fairly well experienced and knowledgeable Tyranid player, but I by no means have all the answers. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll move on to the ever troublesome elite section. Okay, guys, thank you. Don't forget to like this video. Place your comments below. Let me know what you guys think, of course. And don't forget to subscribe. Okay, guys, thank you. Bye.